Halloween night has always carried with it a certain magic. For children, it's the rush of candy, costumes, and running through dimly lit streets with pillowcases or plastic pumpkins. For adults, it's nostalgia, a reminder of the mischief and laughter from their own youth. But for me, Halloween has become a night of dread, because just once I made the mistake of accepting something I shouldn't have. And ever since, I've been living with a bag that never runs out. A bag that Hunger. It started 3 years ago. I wasn't a kid anymore. I was 21, too old to be trick-or-treating, but not old enough to have outgrown Halloween. My friends were busy with parties, costumes, and drinking games. But I wasn't in the mood for that. I'd had a long week. Work was exhausting. My girlfriend had just broken up with me, and honestly, I just wanted something simple. So, for nostalgia's sake, I decided to walk through my old neighborhood, just to soak in the atmosphere of kids laughing, porch lights glowing orange, and leaves crunching underfoot. I didn't plan to knock on doors. I didn't plan to say trick or treat, like a little kid. But sometimes, the night takes you places you didn't intend to go. Halfway down Sycamore Lane, I saw a house I didn't remember being there before. It was wedged between two others, tall and narrow, painted pitch black. No decorations. No pumpkins. Just a single light glowing above the door. A line of kids stood outside it, holding their bags and buckets. At first, I thought nothing of it. But then I noticed something strange. The kids weren't talking, not laughing, not even moving much. They stood in eerie silence, shifting forward one by one until it was their turn at the door. I don't know why. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was boredom, but I got in line too. Nobody looked at me. Nobody asked what I was doing there. And when it was finally my turn, stepped up to the door. It opened before I knocked. The person who stood inside wasn't dressed up, but they looked like they could have been wearing a costume. Their skin was pale, their eyes too dark, their smile too wide. Without speaking, they held out a bag. Not candy. A bag. It looked like an ordinary trick-or-treat sack, made of faded orange fabric, with crude black stitching of a jack-o'-lantern face on the front. I didn't know what to say. Thanks, I muttered, and before I could hand it back, the door closed in my face. I stood there, holding it. The fabric was rough, old, and damp, and when I peeked inside, it wasn't empty. It was filled to the brim with candy. At first I thought it was some kind of Halloween charity thing. Maybe they were giving out reusable bags with candy already inside. But the kids ahead of me hadn't been carrying new bags. They walked away, clutching the ones they already had, so why did they give one to me? I didn't think much of it that night. I carried the bag home, tossed it on my bed, and started unwrapping pieces of candy. But here's the thing. Every time I reached inside, there was more. I ate chocolate bars until my stomach hurt. Pulled out lollipops, gummies, hard candies, caramel apples. But the bag never emptied. The candy kept coming. And at first, I thought I'd just gotten lucky. Maybe it was some promotional gimmick. Maybe the bag was like a magician's trick. But the truth was far darker. Because over the next few weeks, I realized that the bag didn't just refill. It wanted me to keep taking. And the more I did, the more things started to happen. That was the first night. That was when I accepted the bag. And if I could go back, if I could tear that moment from time, I would. Because the bag doesn't just give candy, it takes something too. Asterisk, asterisk, for a few days after Halloween. I treated the bag like it was some kind of miracle. I brought it to work, pulling out candy whenever I felt hungry. My coworkers thought I'd gone bulk shopping at a warehouse store. A few of them even joked that I was running a black market candy operation. But they didn't see what I saw. They didn't notice that the candy never seemed to repeat. Every time I reached inside, there was something new, brands I didn't recognize, flavors I'd never seen before. Some of them had wrappers written in foreign languages. Some looked so old they should have been stale, but they weren't. And sometimes, the candy wasn't candy at all. The first time it happened, I reached inside and pulled out a strip of jerky. It was dry, chewy, almost leathery. I didn't think much of it. I assumed maybe someone put savory snacks in there too. But the more I chewed it, the more I realized it wasn't beef. It didn't taste like any meat I knew. It was bitter, metallic, almost like blood. I spat it out, but the taste lingered for hours. After that, started paying closer attention. The gummies sometimes squirmed just a little before I bit into them. The lollipops were oddly warm, as though they'd been sitting in someone's mouth before. And once, I pulled out a caramel apple that still had teeth marks in it. I should have thrown the bag away right then, but I didn't, because the candy. It was addictive. The sweetness coated my tongue in a way no ordinary candy could. It wasn't just flavor, it was satisfaction. Every bite made me want another. Every handful pulled me deeper. I kept the bag close to me at all times. I'd set it beside my bed at night, resting within arm's reach. That's when the dreams began. I'd see the black house on Sycamore Lane, standing taller than the others. I'd dream of children lined up outside it, their faces blank, their eyes hollow. And always, that pale figure standing in the doorway, smiling at me, holding out another bag. But the bag wasn't full of candy in the dreams. It was full of other things: fingers, teeth, strings of hair. And when I'd wake up, sweating, I'd tell myself it was just a nightmare. Until the night I reached into the bag half asleep and pulled out something soft, something wet. When I turned on the lamp, I realized I was holding a human tooth, blood still fresh at the root. I dropped it on the floor, my stomach twisting. But when I looked again, it was gone. The bag lay there, innocent, sagging slightly. It's stitched. Jack-o'-lantern grin staring up at me. That's when I finally understood something. The bag wasn't meant for me. I hadn't been trick-treating. I hadn't even knocked on the door. It chose me, and it wasn't going to let me go. I tried to ignore it. I left the bag in my closet, shoved behind old clothes and shoes. I told myself I wouldn't touch it again, but that night I heard it. A faint rustling, like fabric shifting. Then a soft thud, like something dropping onto the floor. When I opened the closet the next morning, candy was scattered everywhere. My closet was overflowing with it. Chocolate bars, lollipops, gummy worms piled knee-high, spilling out into my room, and the bag sat on top of it all, still full, still smiling. That was when I realized this wasn't just a bag, it was a curse, and it wasn't just going to stop with candy. It wanted more asterisk by the third week. My life was completely different. The bag wasn't just in my room anymore. It was everywhere, no matter where I left it, in the closet, under the bed, even locked in my car. I'd find candy waiting for me in the most unlikely places. I'd open a kitchen drawer and find chocolate bars stacked neatly among the utensils. I'd go to the bathroom and see candy corn floating in the sink. Once, I opened the fridge and found it filled with nothing but lollipops jammed into the shelves. Dozens of sticks pointing outward like tiny spears. And each time, the bag was nearby, smiling, watching. I tried to get rid of it the first time. I tossed it in a dumpster behind my apartment complex. When I got home, it was sitting on my bed. The second time, I drove out to the woods and buried it under a pile of rocks. That night, I heard dragging sounds outside my window, and when I opened the curtains, I saw it lying on the grass below, muddy but whole. The third time, I set it on fire in the bathtub. The flames licked the fabric, the jack-o'-lantern face curling into a grotesque grin. I watched it smolder. I thought I'd destroyed it, but the next morning, it was back, sitting at my desk. Not a single scorch mark on it. That's when I realized something terrible. The bag didn't belong to me. I belonged to it. I started losing track of time. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with chocolate smeared across my hands and face, wrappers scattered across my bed. I didn't remember eating, but I could feel the candy in my stomach, heavy and rotten. I stopped going to work. My boss called a few times, then stopped. My friends texted me, asking where I'd been. I ignored them all, because the only thing that mattered now was feeding the bag. It wasn't just giving me candy anymore. One night, I reached inside and pulled out something that made me recoil in disgust and eyeball. It was wet, glossy, blood still clinging to the optic nerve. I dropped it instantly. But when it hit the floor, it wasn't an eye anymore. It was a piece of taffy wrapped in bright red paper. I unwrapped it with shaking hands, my mind screaming at me not to. Inside was chewy candy, sticky and sweet, and I ate it. God help my ate it. Asterisk, that's when the hunger began. It wasn't my hunger. It was the bag's. It wanted more than candy. It wanted life. The dreams became worse. I'd see children walking door to door, carrying the same orange bag. Their faces were hollow, their eyes lifeless, and behind them, following in silence, was the pale figure from the black house. It was closer now, always closer, whispering things, offering me more. Asterisk, one night, I woke up standing at my front door. My hands were gripping the bag, knuckles white, as though I'd been about to leave. And inside the bag, I heard something moving. Not candy, not wrappers, but scratching, clawing. Something alive, and it wanted out. I don't know how much longer I can resist it, because the bag doesn't just give, it consumes. And I think it wants to consume me next. Asterisk, asterisk, it's hard to explain what the bag does to your mind. At first, it's just candy. Just sweet, harmless treats. But then you start noticing it in every corner of your life, slipping into places it doesn't belong. And before long, you can't tell where the bag ends and where you begin. The scratching inside had grown louder every time I picked it up. I could feel vibrations through the fabric, like something was pacing inside, testing the walls, waiting for me to reach in. I didn't want to know what it was. But the bag was clever. It knew how to tempt me. It started with hunger pains, sharp, twisting aches that gnawed at my stomach, even when I'd eaten full meals. My body craved candy, and only candy from the bag would satisfy it. If I resisted, dreams returned longer, darker, more vivid. The children with hollow eyes, the pale figure smiling at me, and the bag, always the bag, splitting open at the seams, spilling not candy, but flesh. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat normal food, and then the bag began to ask, not with words, not out loud, but I could feel it in my head. A pressure, a need. Feed me. It wasn't enough to pull candy from it anymore. It wanted me to put things into it. At first, I thought I could trick it. I tossed in scraps of food, half-eaten sandwiches, rotten fruit. The bag swallowed it eagerly, the fabric tightening around the shape before it vanished inside. For a while, I thought I'd found a loophole. I could give it garbage, useless junk, but then the whispers grew louder. Not enough. Not enough? I tried again. This time, I dropped my old phone inside, just to see what would happen. The bag twitched, shuddered. And then it was gone. Gone, like it had been erased from existence. The bag pulsed in my hands after that, warm and eager, and the hunger in my chest grew worse. It wasn't satisfied with trash. It wanted more living things. The first time it happened, it wasn't planned. I found a mouse in my apartment scurrying across the floor, its tiny claws scraping against the tile. Before I would have grabbed a broom or set a trap. But that night, my first thought was of the bag. I cornered it. scooped it up, trembling in my hands, and before I could talk myself out of it, I dropped it inside. The bag writhed. The mouse squealed once. Then silence, and when I reached in again, there was a candy bar waiting for me. I stared at it, horrified. My stomach churned with disgust, but my hands moved on their own. I unwrapped it and ate. The flavor was indescribable, sweet, yes, but richer, heavier, almost like sugar mixed with blood, and as it melted on my tongue, the hunger faded for the first time in weeks. I felt full. The bag had been fed. That night, I slept dreamless, lie, no whispers, no pale figure, no children, just peace. And that was the most terrifying part of all, because I knew then that if I wanted to keep the peace, I'd have to feed it again, and the bag knew it too, because when I woke up the next morning, it was sitting on my chest, heavy, smiling, waiting, asterisk, asterisk, after the mouse. It got easier, too easy. The bag had shown me what it wanted, did what I had to give it. But the more I fed it, the more it demanded. At first, it was small things. Stray bugs crawling across the kitchen counter. A pigeon I found limping outside my apartment. Each time, I'd toss them into the bag, and each time, the reward came in the form of candy sweeter than anything I'd ever tasted. But soon, it wasn't enough. The hunger returned quicker. The whispers grew louder, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw that pale figure again closer. Now, its smile stretching wider, its hands reaching out, as though ready to take hold of me one night. My neighbor knocked on my door. Her name was Lisa, mid-30s, friendly. The kind of neighbor who always smiled when we passed in the hallway. She was holding a small box in her hands. "Hey," she said, "I baked some cupcakes. Thought you might want some. Haven't seen you around lately." I froze. My stomach growled, not at the cupcakes, but at her. I felt the bag pulsing in my hand behind the door, warm and eager, as though it already knew. I forced a smile and accepted the box. "Thanks," I mumbled, trying to sound normal. She looked at me strangely, like she could sense something was off. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You look pale." I nodded quickly, shutting the door before she could say anything else. The cupcakes sat untouched on the counter, but the bag wouldn't stop whispering. Not enough. Not enough. And for the first time, I understood exactly what it wanted. Not mice. Not birds. People. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound outside my door made my pulse race. I imagined Lisa walking past. Imagined myself opening the door, dragging her inside, shoving her into the bag. The thought sickened me. But the bag's hunger was stronger than mine, and by morning, I knew I couldn't fight it much longer. I tried to leave. I packed a bag, grabbed my car keys, and decided I was driving until I hit another state. Maybe if I put enough distance between me and the bag, it would stop. But when I opened the car door, it was already there, sitting in the passenger seat. I didn't put it there. It was just waiting. I screamed, slammed the door shut, and ran back inside. The bag appeared in my bedroom, on my kitchen table, even once in the shower with me. There was no escaping it. That night, I caved. I didn't mean to. I was just so tired, so hungry. When Lisa knocked on my door again, asking if everything was all right, I didn't answer. I just opened the door, and the bag did the rest. I didn't even see what happened to her. One moment, she was there live, breathing, blinking, and the next, she was gone, swallowed whole. The bag twitched once, twice, and then it stilled. When I looked inside, it was full of candy again, cupcakes with blood-red frosting, and I ate every single one. That was the first time I fed it a person, and the peace that followed was unbearable, because it felt good, it felt right, and deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. Asterisk, asterisk, after Lisa, things changed. The bag didn't just sit there quietly anymore. It pulsed with life, like a beating heart. I could feel it in the walls, in the floorboards, even in my own chest. And everywhere I went. It followed. The police came around 2 days later. "Have you seen your neighbor?" one of them asked. She was reported missing. I shook my head, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Haven't seen her in a while. Sorry." They searched the hallway, knocked on doors, asked questions. And all the while, the bag was sitting in plain sight on my couch. Not one of them noticed it. It was like it didn't exist for anyone but me. Or maybe it wanted me to carry this weight alone. I told myself Lisa's disappearance was a one-time thing. An accident? I hadn't chosen it. The bag had, but the peace it gave me afterward. I couldn't ignore it. I slept soundly for the first time in weeks. The hunger vanished. The dreams went quiet. And then 3 days later, the whispers returned. Not enough. The bag started showing me things not in dreams. This time, real life. I'd walk down the street and see children trick-or-treating in broad daylight. Their bags identical to mine. Their faces blank and pale. No one else seemed to notice them. At the grocery store, I pulled a candy bar from the shelf, only to realize the wrapper bore the same crude jack-o'-lantern face stitched into my bag. And when I unwrapped it, the chocolate inside pulsed, as if it had veins. I stopped leaving my apartment. I couldn't trust what was real anymore. But that didn't matter, because the bag brought what it wanted to me. It began with a stray cat. I heard a yowling outside my window one night. The bag sat on the sill, open wide, waiting. I didn't resist. The next morning, the whispers quieted again. But not for long. Asterisk, the hunger came back sooner each time. First days, then hours, then minutes. I couldn't keep up. It needed more, bigger, human. I tried to fight it. I locked the bag in my closet, shoved a dresser in front of the door. Anything to keep it out of sight, but that night, I woke up choking. The bag was on my chest again. Open wide, the inside of it darker than darkness, pulling at me like a black hole. I screamed and shoved it away, but when I turned on the light, it was smiling again, always smiling. The next morning, I made a decision. If it wanted people live, that was the only way to keep the whispers at bathe. Maybe I could choose. Maybe I could control who went into the bag. I told myself it would only be people who deserved it. Bad people. Criminals, the ones nobody would miss. That night, I walked the streets with the bag slung over my shoulder, like some twisted trick dash or dash treater, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was hunting. Asterisk, I told myself it was justice. That night, as I walked through the city streets with the bag slung over my shoulder, I repeated it in my head like a prayer. Bad people. Only bad people. That way, I wasn't a monster. I wasn't a killer. I was feeding a curse. The first man I found was standing outside a liquor store, screaming at the cashier through the glass, pounding on the door after closing hours. He was drunk, red-faced, spitting every word. When he turned and staggered down the alley, I followed. The bag grew heavier in my hands, almost dragging me forward. Its fabric twitched, hungry, tuned, noticing me. "What the hell you staring at?" I didn't answer. I just opened the bag. He laughed at first. "What's that, trick or treat? Halloween's over." But then the bag moved. It lunged not with my hands, but on its own. The opening stretched wide, impossibly wide. And the man's laughter cut off in a scream. He stumbled back, tripped over a trash can. But the bag swallowed him whole in one jerking pull. Silence, and just like that, he was gone. I stood there, panting, waiting for someone to come running at the noise. But the street was empty. The city was silent, and the bag was smiling. When I looked inside, I saw candy piled high. Chocolate bars, suckers, gum, and one thing more. A small glass bottle of whiskey, the man's whiskey. I hesitated only a moment. Before drinking it, it burned going down. But the hunger stopped, and for a few precious hours, I felt normal again. That's how it worked from then on. Every person I fed, it gave something back. A child's doll, a gold watch, a locket, little tokens of the lives they once lived, transformed into candy or trinkets. And the bag rewarded me with silence. No whispers, no dreams, just peace. But there was a cost. Each time I fed it, I felt something in me slip away. The first time I woke up unable to remember Lisa's face, just blank where her memory should have been. The second time, I forgot my boss's name. The third, I couldn't even recall what my own mother's voice sounded like. The bag wasn't just taking people, it was taking me. I told myself I could stop, that I'd had enough, that I could resist. But the hunger doesn't care about promises. And when the whispers came again, louder than ever, I found myself walking the streets once more hunting. This time, the bag didn't wait. It guided me. It pulled at my arm like a leash, dragging me down alleys, across streets, until I found myself standing outside a house I recognized, the black house on Sycamore Lane, the one where this all began. The porch light was glowing. The door was open, and inside, the pale figure was waiting. Its smile was wider than ever. And in its hand was another bag. Asterisk, asterisk, the black house on Sycamore Lane shouldn't have been there. I hadn't walked this neighborhood in months. I'd told myself I'd never come back. And yet, there it was, wedged between two others, taller, darker, like a shadow that refused to leave. The porch light glowed sickly yellow. The door was cracked open, spilling blackness into the night. And in that darkness, the pale figure waited. Its eyes were bottomless pits. Its grin stretched ear to ear, the same grin stitched into the bag slung over my shoulder in its hand. It held another bag identical to mine, only darker. The jack-o'-lantern face stitched in jagged black thread that seemed to pulse like veins. It lifted the bag, offering it to me. I froze at the edge of the porch, my own bag twitching, thrashing, as though desperate to leap toward its twin. My voice cracked as I spoke for the first time in weeks. What? What do you want from me? The figure tilted its head. Its mouth didn't move, but I heard the answer. Feed. The word shuddered through my skull. Rattling in my bones, I shook my head. No, I can't keep doing this. I can't. The bag in my hand writhed violently, yanking me forward. My feet hit the first step before I realized I was moving. The figure's smile widened. You already have. My knees buckled. Faces flashed in my mind, Lisa. The drunk man, the strangers I'd shoved inside the bag one by one. Only, their faces were blurry, hollow. I couldn't remember their voices, their eyes. Their names, they weren't just gone from the world. They were gone from me. Erased. The figure raised its free hand, pointing at me and behind it. The darkness of the house shifted. Shapes moved. Children, dozens of them. Their eyes were empty sockets. Their skin sagged like melting wax. Each one held a trick-or-treat bag identical to mine, clutching them like lifelines. They shuffled forward in silence, their mouths opening as one. Trick-or-treat. The words weren't playful. They weren't innocent. They were a demand. And I realized then what I'd become. Another in a long line of cursed carriers, chosen to feed the endless hunger of these bags. The figure wasn't giving me a choice. It never had. The children moved closer, their hollow faces inches from mine. The figure extended the second bag again, urging me to take it. I clutched my own tighter, whispering, "No, I won't." But my bag pulsed angrily. The jack-o'-lantern grin, twisting into a sneer. And in the silence, the children spoke again. Louder this time, trick or treat. The air thickened, heavy with their demand, and I knew if I didn't feed the bag soon, it wouldn't just take strangers, it would take me. Asterisk, the chant wouldn't stop. Trick or treat. Trick or treat. Trick or treat. Their voices overlapped, shrill and hollow, drilling into my skull until my knees hit the rotting porch. The pale figure still loomed in the doorway, arm outstretched, offering me the second bag like a king bestowing a crown. Only this crown would strangle me from the inside. Out my bag convulsed, thrashing against my arm so violently I thought my bones might snap. The jack-o'-lantern face warped, eyes twisting into sharp slits, grin stretching too wide. It wanted, it demanded. And then it spoke. Not from outside, but from inside my head. "Feed me, or I'll feed on you." My breath caught in my throat. I stumbled back, clutching my head, but the children closed in, their bags scraping against the porch boards. The sound was unbearable, like sandpaper grinding against glass. Every scrape, every step. It was pulling me apart. And then memories began to slip. At first, it was little things. My favorite color. My first pet's name. The way my mother used to sing off-key in the kitchen when she thought no one was listening. Each thought faded, dissolving like smoke into the night. The bag pulsed harder with each piece it stole. Not enough. It hissed. "More," I screamed, clutching the bag as though strangling it might help. But the fabric stretched, its mouth widening, glowing from within. I saw something inside. Not candy, not toys, not the faint faces of victims, but me. Fragments of me, floating in the void. Memories, laughs, regrets. My reflection, shattered into hundreds of jagged pieces, and it was eating them one by one. I staggered forward, gasping. "Stomp, stop." The pale figure only grinned wider, lowering the second bag, tucking it behind its back. It didn't need to offer it anymore. I was already doomed. The bag on my shoulder was becoming me. The children crowded closer. Their eyeless sockets brimmed with something like hunger, but also pity. One of them, a girl with braids, no older than 10, leaned closer. Her voice was a whisper, softer than the others. "You'll be like us soon." Her jack-o'-lantern bag twitched, just like mine. "You'll forget everything. You'll walk the streets forever, and no one will ever remember your name." I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, but when I opened my mouth, the words weren't mine. Trick or treat. The chant spilled out, unbidden. My throat burned as the words repeated, louder, stronger. Sinking with the children, my bag throbbed with pleasure. The grin stitched into its fabric, shifted, until it looked exactly like my own smile. I staggered back, horrified. My reflection, the one in the void of the bag, laughed at me, and I realized the truth. The bag wasn't a tool. It wasn't cursed. It was alive, and it was replacing me. Asterisk, the chant was inside me now. Trick or treat. Trick or treat. Trick or treat. The children circled closer, their eyeless faces glowing faintly with the reflection of the jack-o'-lanterns on their bags. And mine. My bag? It wasn't just pulsing anymore. It was breathing, inhale, exhale, a living thing fused to my arm. Leeching what little was left of me, the pale figure leaned forward from the doorway, its grin splitting impossibly wide. Become the word was final, not a command, not even a threat, a promise. My knees buckled. My body was failing me. The bag was already drinking me dry, swallowing memory after memory. I couldn't remember my childhood home anymore. My father's face was gone. Even my own name was slipping into the void. If I gave a sniff, I fed it just one more time, there would be nothing left. No. My voice cracked. Not me. Not yet. The bag hissed in my skull. Then feed me another. I looked at the circle of children. Their hollow sockets glistened like open wounds. They didn't fight, didn't resist. They wanted me to do it, because that's what they had done once. 2. That's why they were here, trapped, forever. For the first time, I realized there was another way. Not to feed it, not to obey, but to starve it. I wrapped both hands around the bag. It writhed, shrieking in my skull, trying to slip free, but I dug my nails in deep, tearing at the fabric. Nitrogen monoxide. I screamed. You don't own me. The children wailed as one, their voices piercing. A chorus of banshees. The pale figure's smile cracked, jagged lines splitting its face like broken porcelain. And the bag. The bag fought back. It showed me everything it had devoured. The faces, the lives. The people I'd fed at Lisa, the drunk man. The nameless strangers. They screamed at me from inside the void, begging to be let out, begging not to vanish. My grip faltered. My heart felt like it was being clawed apart, and in that moment, I knew if I ripped the bag apart, they'd never come back. Their souls. It would be gone forever. The bag whispered sweetly in my mind, keep me. Feed me, you'll live. You'll never be forgotten. For a heartbeat. I almost gave in, almost, but then I saw my reflection in its stitched grin. It wasn't mine anymore, and I couldn't let that thing wear me with one last scream. I ripped the bag wide open. A black wind howled out, pulling at everything, the children, the pale figure, even the porch boards beneath my knees. Their bodies unraveled like ash, scattering into the void. The pale figure lunged at me, its mouth open wide. But the wind swallowed it whole, and then silence. When I opened my eyes, the bag was gone. The house was gone. The children were gone. I stood alone in the middle of an empty street, clutching nothing. My hands were raw, bloody from tearing at fabric that no longer existed. I laughed once, weak and broken. I'd done it. I was free, or so I thought, because when I looked down at myself, the jack-o'-lantern grin wasn't gone. It was carved into my skin, stitched into my chest, glowing faintly in the dark. And when I tried to scream, the only words that came out were, trick or treat, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That's all for today, folks. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.